Town officials want to find out what's causing a bad smell in Hyannis. Best Buddies looking to host its annual event again in Centerville next summer. Plus, it's been a busy week for the Barnstable Police Department. We get details from Police Chief Paul McDonald. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, January 6th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mantle. Town officials want to find the cause of a bad smell near Stewart's Creek in Hyannis. Residents have complained about the smell even after a project to widen the culvert in the area was completed by the Army Corps of Engineers about a year ago. DPW Director Dan Santos hopes a study will help pinpoint the problem.
The manager agreed with the residents that it's bad. I mean, the smell is it's kind of more than you would expect,
Right.
And so from their perspective, it doesn't seem to be working. So the result may be that it needs time to acclimate and balance, but they just want to be sure that it's installed right and that it was appropriate, and that we're ultimately going to create a better system there than we have or had in the past.
Santos says if approved, the study would take 2 to 3 months to complete. Best Buddies will return to Centerville again next summer for its annual bike race. Organizer Bill Sykes went before the Recreation Commission last night to ask for its approval.
But yeah, it's been going really well. I mean, the ride's growing. Every year they sell it out, and we cap it at 1,500 riders. We always end up with a few more just because last minute donations come in, big donors. But they cap it at 1,500 primarily because of space and how much pressure it puts on the area down there. It's a good number, and as they sell out, it really works well.
Are you planning on having the Super Bowl quarterback Tom Brady back this year?
Yes. Yep. He's still the spokesman for Best Buddies. Does a great job. They just had a Team Tom Brady event in Boston that brought in a ton of people. So once that gets started, people join that team, raise money for that team, and they become part of the team.
Director of Leisure Services Patty Machado says last summer there were no complaints following the event and that things ran smoothly.
Rubbish went well, pick up for everything. It was nice because it was a week in between, so we were actually able to get really ready for for the sprint triathlon. So everything worked well, gave us a week so that we could deal with residents and make sure that they had ample opportunity to get to the beach between the two big events.
The Recreation Commission unanimously approved the event. The holiday season is a busy one for all police departments. Police Chief Paul McDonald says the same is true for the Barnstable Police Department. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin chatted with the chief to get details.
Chief, it's been a couple of weeks since we've chatted. I just want to kind of get the review. We had a New Year's Eve. It seems like things were relatively quiet. Things went well over the holidays.
They went well, but since December 24th, day after we last spoke, there's been approximately 51 arrests in the town, ranging from being protective custody to domestic violence. The most serious issue, we arrested Dion Rocheteau. You might remember Rocheteau. We talked about him a couple of months ago when he was arrested for breaking into the paddock and a couple of other commercial buildings along Main Street. He was found guilty. He did a couple of months in jail. He got out. A couple of officers observed him in Chuckles Way on Masters Mills when they approached him. He was obviously concealing something in his pocket. What he was concealing was a firearm, so he was subsequently arrested for illegal possession of a firearm. So that was the most serious incident. We had a number of domestic violence incidents, a couple involving attempted strangulations, one involving a samurai sword, and the thing that was most disturbing to us is over the holidays we had a huge spike in attempted suicides. On one evening alone, we covered 4 attempted suicides. So it was relatively busy.
And it is tragic, Chief, to think about this time of year. But of course, you know, there's all sorts of stuff going on. The weather is getting colder. The holidays can be very hard on people, and we do, you know, traditionally do see that spike in suicides or attempted suicides, and an uptick in domestic violence as well, which is kind of troubling.
It's predictable. You know, every year right around this time, you know, as as we have less sun, it's dark, it's kind of gloomy out there, and we always have a spike right around Christmas time for the domestic violence and the suicides. Yes.
Indeed. Chief, I want to talk a little bit about the substance abuse issues as well, and I know that's something that we continue to deal with. I think this year, or last year around this time, we were really dealing with some record numbers of overdoses, some deaths, etc. With the advent of Narcan, I know that your officers are all getting trained. They carry that. You know, the officers have really been able, and the first responders, to save a lot of lives when it comes to that.
Right. The overdoses really started last February. That's when it really spiked, last February and March. And then again, it spiked this December. To date, so far, we have covered 81 overdoses, and that's a conservative number because some of these individuals who are transported to the hospital, at the time they're transported, we don't know what happened to them or what their problem is, and once they get into the hospital, we really don't have access to that information. So what we know, we can confirm at least 81 drug overdoses, and out of that, which is really a little disturbing, there were 11 fatalities. And out of the 81 overdoses that we covered, 10 of them we covered multiple times, some 2, 3, and 4 times.
Indeed, and you know, it is really concerning. And I was doing some research and some reading into this, Chief, because of course, you know, as being in the news, it's something that we're going to be covering and we're going to be taking a look at. And I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the safe harbor law that I came across a couple of days ago, and that's something that was passed a few years ago, and certainly in place to protect people. And tell me a little bit, if you can explain maybe what this law is all about and what it does.
Well, it's Chapter 94C, Section 34A. What it is, it's immunity from prosecution for anyone seeking medical assistance for themselves or for someone else. Basically, what it is trying to encourage people. If someone is overdosing, obviously, the quicker we get response, the quicker Narcan is administered to them, the more likelihood they're going to survive. So they passed this act, so it's encouraging people to call the police department or call a rescue squad as soon as humanly possible. What that means is once we get there, if there is still residue, if there is still a small amount of cocaine or heroin or they're immune for prosecution for possession. However, if there's a sizable amount of heroin and cocaine there, they can still be charged with distribution and trafficking in a Class A or Class B substance. You know, if you look back in Yarmouth, I believe last month sometime, they administered Narcan to the same individual 2 days in a row at 2 different motels. On the second day, when they administered Narcan, in the room they also found a quantity of heroin, and they did charge him, even though they were there to revive him. They did charge him with distribution. So the law protects the person from immunity, but only for the mere possession of a narcotic. If it's distribution or trafficking, they can still be charged.
Right. However, possession is, as far as I know, still a crime, Chief. And I can obviously see how this is in place to protect people. You know, you want people to be helped out and to avoid you know, letting this overdose you know, take their lives. But in terms of looking at how widespread the problem is, that, you know, do you find this slightly concerning from a law enforcement perspective?
From a law enforcement, you know, we do not want to enable these individuals to continue to do this. We don't want them to feel safe. We do not want them to have this Narcan and then they give the Narcan to their friends and say, listen, here's a Narcan. If something happens to me, I'm going to shoot up, you know, but I'm going to take some extra dosage because I know the Narcan is right there. It will revive me. If I shoot up, if I become unconscious, use Narcan on me immediately. We are a little bit concerned about that, but I think the public safety it outweighs that, so I think it's important that people should call us as soon as possible. It's not uncommon for us to get there. Once we are there, you know, the overdoses happen so quickly and so suddenly that needles sometimes are still in the individual's arms.
Chief McDonald says the important thing for police will be to locate the source of the heroin following any overdose. The Conservation Commission meets tonight at 6:30 in the Town Hall hearing room, and the Mid-Cape Cultural Council also meets at 6:30 this evening. They will be meeting in the Selectmen's Conference Room. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with the CEO of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, Wendy Northcross, for our Business Barnstable segment. We'll talk with Finance Director Mark Milne Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.